The encounter. The deep darkness of space stretched endlessly, stars twinkling like tiny fireflies in the distance. Inside a massive alien spaceship, a group of observers sat in silence, their glowing eyes fixed on the holographic screen in front of them. The screen displayed a strange and terrifying scene, unfolding on the surface of an unknown jumbo planet. A lone human girl stood in a dense, misty jungle, her small frame barely visible between the thick, twisted trees. Before her, a massive creature growled, its enormous claws digging into the damp earth. Its black scales gleamed under the dim sunlight, and its piercing red eyes burned with rage. It was a monster, a terrifying beast known as Raxar. The aliens watching from their ship exchanged nervous glances. "This human will die in seconds," one of them whispered. "She should run, but she isn't moving," another said, confused. They had seen humans before, always fragile, always weak compared to the superior alien species of the galaxy. No human had ever survived an encounter with Raxar before. Yet this girl stood still, her hands at her sides, completely calm. The face-off. Lena took a slow breath, her heart pounding against her ribs. The creature in front of her was injured, its left leg bleeding from a deep wound. The air smelled of damp earth, strange plants, and the metallic scent of blood. Most people would have run. Most people would have screamed. But Lena was not like most people. She took a step closer. Raxar let out a deep, rumbling growl. Its body tensed, ready to attack, ready to rip apart whatever dared to come near. Its sharp teeth, longer than her fingers, glistened with saliva. The aliens in the spaceship held their breath. This was it. The monster would strike, and the human girl would be no more. But Lena did not run. She lowered herself onto one knee, slowly reaching into her bag. Her movements were careful, non-threatening. She pulled out a small metal container and opened it. Inside was a thick, pasty substance, mixed with healing herbs. The monster watched her, its nostrils flaring. Lena extended her hand, offering the paste. The aliens gasped. What is she doing? Trying to feed it. They expected Raxar to lunge forward and bite off her arm. But instead, the beast sniffed the air, uncertain. Lena's voice was soft but firm. "I know you're hurt," she said. "I can help." Raxar's red eyes locked onto hers. There was something in them, not just anger, not just wild rage. There was understanding. A moment of suspense. The aliens watching from above grew restless. This was unnatural. This was impossible. This creature is a mindless killer. It does not listen. It does not trust, one alien scientist protested. Yet, Raxar did not attack. It hesitated. Lena remained still, her breathing even. She knew that any sudden movement could mean death. But she also knew something else. Fear is what makes creatures attack. If you show them you are not a threat, sometimes they listen. Seconds passed. Then, slowly, Raxar lowered its head. The spaceship filled with stunned silence. The aliens could not believe what they were seeing. Lena smiled, just a little. Carefully, she reached out and touched the creature's scales. They were rough, warm, and covered in scars. This was a fighter, a survivor. Raxar let out a deep, tired huff. It had accepted her. Aliens in shock. Back in the spaceship, chaos erupted. No creature has ever done this before. How did she stop it? Humans are weak. They are prey. This is unnatural. The alien captain narrowed his glowing blue eyes. He had seen many things in his long life, but this was beyond explanation. "She is different," he muttered, "and that makes her dangerous." A scientist beside him shook his head. "Should we capture her? Study her?" The captain did not answer immediately. His gaze remained locked on the screen, where Lena now sat beside the massive beast, gently applying the healing paste to its wound. "No," he finally said. "We watch, we learn, and if she becomes a threat, we stop her." The spaceship remained in the shadows, silently observing. A bond begins. On the planet below, Lena continued tending to Raxar's wound. The monster no longer growled at her. Instead, it watched her with careful curiosity. She knew this was only the beginning. Trust took time. But for now, the impossible had happened. A human had tamed a beast, and the universe would never be the same again. Fearless human and the impossible bond. The dense jungle was alive with strange sounds, distant calls of unseen creatures, the rustling of giant leaves in the humid breeze, and the steady breathing of a monster that should have, by all logic, killed the human girl standing before it. Raxar, the apex predator of this deadly planet, had never shown mercy. It had never shown trust. Yet here it was, injured, vulnerable, and allowing a fragile human to touch it. High above in the depths of space, the alien observers aboard their silent warship were frozen in shock. Their glowing eyes remained locked on the holographic screen, which displayed the unbelievable sight below. "How is this possible?" one of them finally whispered. The captain stood motionless, watching Lena's every movement. His mind raced with possibilities. This was not how things were supposed to happen. Humans were weak. Monsters were killers. But this changed everything. The moment Lena placed her hands on Raxar's wound, the universe shifted in a way no one had expected. A monster's hesitation. Raxar's massive form loomed over Lena, its sharp claws easily capable of slicing her in half. It let out a low guttural sound, a warning, a reminder of its power. But Lena didn't flinch. She held her ground, her eyes steady, her breathing controlled. She knew that one wrong move could be the end of her, but she also knew something else. This creature was in pain. And pain had a way of making even the fiercest beings desperate. With slow, deliberate movements, Lena dipped her fingers into the healing paste and pressed it gently onto the wound. The alien audience watching from their ship gasped. "She is insane. She is fearless." Raxar tensed. Every muscle in its colossal body went rigid. Lena could hear its deep breathing, the slight tremble in its body as pain and instinct fought inside its mind. Would it lash out? Would it accept her? A single drop of sweat slid down Lena's temple. The jungle held its breath. And then, Raxar exhaled. A deep, rumbling sound filled the air. Not a growl, not a snarl. Something different. Something like acceptance. Lena smiled just slightly. "There," she whispered, her voice steady but kind. "That wasn't so bad, was it?" Raxar did not respond, but it did not attack. And that was enough. A human unlike any other. On the alien ship, a heated debate broke out. This is not natural. No creature has ever bonded with Raxar before. No species has even survived a close encounter. We must act. If humans can control monsters, they will become too dangerous. The captain raised a hand, silencing the murmurs. His sharp gaze remained fixed on Lena. "Not yet," he said. "We do not interfere. We observe." His officers exchanged glances. Some were uneasy. Some were afraid. But no one dared to question him. Not yet. A silent understanding. Lena did not know she was being watched. She only knew that, for the first time, she had seen something in a monster's eyes that was not rage. It was something else. Recognition. She sat beside Raxar, letting it get used to her presence. She did not try to force her touch upon it again. She understood that trust had to be earned, not taken. Slowly, Raxar lowered its massive head to the ground, its breathing steady. The apex predator, the terror of this jungle, was resting. And for the first time, it was not alone. Lena closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of what had just happened. She had tamed a beast, or perhaps it had chosen to trust her. The difference didn't matter. All that mattered was that something impossible had just begun. The alien threat grows. But high above, in the silence of space, the alien captain made a decision. Prepare the extraction team. His voice was calm, calculated. If she can control one beast, she might control more. And that we cannot allow. The beast chooses its master. The jungle planet was alive with the sounds of distant predators, whispering winds, and the deep breathing of a creature that should have, by all logic, been Lena's executioner. Instead, it lay still beside her, its massive chest rising and falling as it recovered from its wounds. The impossible had happened. A human had tamed a monster. High above in space, the alien council in panic. Inside the silent warship floating in orbit, tension filled the room. The alien captain stood at the center of the command deck, watching the holographic feed with narrowed eyes. The screen showed Lena, a mere human, sitting beside Raxar, the galaxy's most feared predator. This was not normal. This was not acceptable. "This is a mistake," one of the officers muttered. "She is an anomaly," another added. The council members murmured in agreement. Humans were weak. Humans were prey. Yet this one was different. She did not just survive an encounter with a deadly creature, she bonded with it. And that terrified them. The captain's sharp gaze never wavered from the screen. He had been in power for over a century. He had conquered planets, destroyed civilizations, and wiped out rebellions before they could even begin. But this unnerved him. "We cannot allow this to continue," he finally said. "If she can tame one, she can tame more." A deadly silence followed. Then an officer hesitated before speaking. "But Captain, we do not know how she did it. What if she is the key to controlling all apex predators?" The captain turned slowly, his expression unreadable. "Then we will find out." His voice was final. The decision was made. Lena would be taken. The jungle, a monster's trust. Lena woke up to the sound of rustling leaves. The thick jungle canopy stretched above her, allowing only small streams of golden sunlight to pass through. The air was damp, filled with the scent of wet earth and distant danger. For a moment, she had almost forgotten where she was. And then she felt it, a heavy presence beside her. She turned her head slowly. Raxar. The beast was still there, its massive body curled slightly, its wounds beginning to heal. It was awake, watching her with piercing red eyes. But the fire of rage that had once burned in them was no longer there. Instead, there was something else. Recognition. Lena stayed still, allowing the moment to settle. Raxar did not growl. Raxar did not attack. Raxar did not leave. It chose to stay. A slow smile formed on Lena's lips. She knew, at that moment, that she had just earned something far rarer than survival. She had earned trust. A new threat approaches. But trust would not be enough to keep them safe. The jungle was shifting. Birds scattered from the treetops. Insects went silent. Something was coming. Lena's instincts kicked in. She sat up quickly, scanning the dense foliage. Raxar's ears twitched, its body stiffening. The creature could feel it too. Danger. And then she saw them. Strange floating orbs, scanning the jungle, moving like silent ghosts through the air. Drones. Lena's stomach twisted. Someone was watching them. Her suspicions were confirmed when a familiar voice crackled through the air, echoing from the drone speakers. "You have done something extraordinary, human," a cold, calculated voice said. "And that makes you a problem." Lena's blood turned to ice. The aliens. They had been watching her all along. And now, they were making their move. The hunter becomes the hunted. Raxar let out a deep growl, its claws digging into the earth. The beast sensed the threat, and it did not like it. Lena's mind raced. She had tamed a monster, but she was still just one human against an advanced alien race. If they had found her, it meant they were coming for her. And they would not be merciful. Her heart pounded as she realized her next move. She had two choices. Run. Hide. Hope they lose interest. Fight. Survive. Defy them. But before she could decide, The jungle erupted in chaos. The air hummed with energy. The ground shook. And then, a massive alien warship descended from the clouds, blocking out the sky. The aliens were no longer just watching. They were here. The final decision. Lena gritted her teeth. She turned to Raxar, who stood beside her like a living mountain, its body tense, its eyes locked onto the approaching danger. The aliens thought she was weak. They thought she was just another human. They were wrong. She placed a hand on Raxar's thick scales, feeling the power beneath them. "If we fight together," she whispered. The monster did not hesitate. It let out a roar so powerful that the trees trembled, the jungle beasts fled, and the alien drones faltered in the air. Lena's eyes burned with determination. She had chosen her side, and for the first time in history, a human and a monster would stand together against an empire. The war had begun. Alien conspiracy and the hidden truth. The jungle burned. Smoke curled through the thick canopy, twisting into the sky like dark fingers. Trees that had stood for centuries were now nothing but shattered trunks and burning embers. The scent of scorched earth filled the air, mixing with the metallic tang of ozone, the unmistakable mark of alien weaponry. Lena ran. Her boots pounded against the damp earth, her breath coming in sharp gasps as she pushed forward, dodging between massive roots and overgrown vines. Beside her, Raxar moved like a shadow, silent, powerful, deadly. The alien warship had landed. The hunt had begun. The sky falls. From above, the warship loomed, its sleek metallic hull reflecting the dim sunlight. Alien soldiers descended in groups, their armor gleaming with blue energy, their weapons humming with lethal power. They weren't here to negotiate. They were here to take her. Lena knew she had no chance against them in open combat. She wasn't a warrior. She had no high-tech weapons, no special armor, just her mind, her instincts, and the unlikeliest ally in the universe. Raxar. The beast moved beside her like a silent guardian, its red eyes glowing in the dim light. Its muscles were tense, its claws dug deep into the earth. It was ready to fight. But Lena wasn't. Not yet. They needed to escape. She veered left, pulling Raxar toward a dense patch of jungle. If they could reach the river, they could follow it into the underground caves she had discovered days ago. If they could hide, they might survive. But survival wasn't her only goal anymore. She needed to know why the aliens were after her. Why were they so afraid of a single human? The hidden door. Branches snapped behind her. The sound of heavy boots echoed through the trees. They were closing in. Lena pushed forward, her mind racing. The jungle had always been dangerous, but she had studied it. She knew its paths, its secrets, and if she was right, there was one place the aliens wouldn't dare follow her. The ruins. A week ago, she had stumbled upon a strange underground structure, half buried beneath the roots of a massive tree. At the time, she had dismissed it as just another relic of a long-forgotten civilization. But now, as she and Raxar ran toward it, something inside her whispered that it was more than just ruins. It was a hiding place, a sanctuary, or maybe a prison. She reached the edge of the clearing, her heart hammering. Before her, the entrance stood, a massive stone door, covered in symbols she couldn't read. Thick vines wrapped around it like nature itself was trying to keep it sealed. Lena hesitated for only a second. Then she pressed her hand against the surface. The ground rumbled. The symbols glowed. And the door slid open. Aliens in shock. High above, inside the warship, the alien captain stared at the screen. He watched as the ancient door opened, as the human girl stepped inside, as the beast followed her without hesitation. His blood ran cold. "This is impossible," one of his officers whispered. "No one has entered those ruins in over 1,000 years," another muttered. The captain's grip tightened. "She has awakened something," he said. "Something we buried long ago." The room fell silent. This mission had never been just about the human girl. It had never been just about the beast. It was about what lay beneath the surface of that planet. Something ancient, something powerful, something they never wanted to be found. And now, it was awake. Secrets beneath the surface. Lena's footsteps echoed as she walked deeper into the underground chamber. The walls were smooth, not carved by primitive hands, but designed with technology far beyond anything she had seen before. Lights flickered to life as she moved, casting a soft golden glow. The deeper she went, the stronger the hum beneath her feet became, a deep vibration, like the planet itself was breathing. Raxar's ears twitched. The beast let out a low growl, but it wasn't fear. It was recognition. Lena swallowed hard. "You've been here before, haven't you?" she whispered. Raxar didn't respond, but it didn't need to. Because ahead of them, carved into the stone, was a massive mural, and at its center was a creature that looked exactly like Raxar. The truth revealed. Lena stepped closer, her eyes tracing the ancient carvings. The images showed a civilization that no longer existed, tall figures with glowing eyes, standing alongside beasts that looked just like Raxar. But they weren't fighting. They were partners, guardians, not monsters. Lena's mind raced. The aliens lied. They had told the galaxy that these creatures were nothing more than wild beasts, mindless predators that needed to be controlled or destroyed. But the truth was right here, written in stone. Raxar's kind had once been intelligent. They had once been warriors. And then, they had been betrayed. Lena exhaled sharply. "They wiped out your kind, didn't they?" The beast let out a low rumble, its claws scraping against the floor. It didn't understand her words, but it felt the truth of them. Lena's hands curled into fists. She had been running, hiding, surviving. But now she had something bigger than survival. She had a purpose. The aliens weren't here to kill her. They were here to erase this truth, and she wasn't going to let them. Above the ruins, the final warning. The alien captain turned to his crew. His voice was steady, but his eyes burned with fury. "Prepare the planetary strike." Gasps filled the room. "Captain, if we fire, we will destroy the ruins." "And the human with it," he interrupted. "Exactly." There was no hesitation in his command. "If she learns too much, we won't just lose a battle. We will lose the war." The warship's cannons locked onto the jungle below. The countdown began. 10, 9, 8. Deep underground, Lena and Raxar stared at the carvings, unaware of the death that was about to rain down upon them. The alien betrayal. The countdown continued. 7, 6, 5. The alien warship hovered ominously above the jungle, its massive cannons humming with lethal energy, locked onto the ruins below. Inside, the captain stood motionless, his cold eyes locked onto the holographic countdown. There was no hesitation in his mind. The human girl had learned too much. And knowledge was far deadlier than any weapon. "Sir, planetary strike will be irreversible." An officer hesitated. "The ruins, the jungle, everything will be reduced to ash." The captain didn't blink. "Then fire." 4, 3. But before the countdown could reach 0, a deafening roar ripped through the sky. The beast strikes back. From deep within the ruins, the vibration beneath Lena's feet suddenly intensified. The carvings on the walls pulsed with a strange energy, as if reacting to something. Or someone. Beside her, Raxar's body stiffened. Its ears twitched. Then, in an instant, it moved. With a speed no creature its size should have possessed, Raxar lunged forward. Before Lena could react, the monster smashed its massive claws against the wall. The stone shattered like glass, revealing a hidden chamber beneath them. Light flooded the underground room as Lena stumbled forward, and what she saw made her heart stop. Rows upon rows of massive stone sarcophagi stretched into the darkness, each one carved with symbols she couldn't read. But she didn't need to. She knew what they were. Tombs. And inside them, more creatures like Raxar. A lost army awakens. A cold shiver ran down Lena's spine. Raxar let out a deep, guttural sound. Not a growl, not a snarl. Something else. A call. And then, they answered. The air crackled. The stone coffins began to shift. Dust that had settled for thousands of years was disturbed as the lids of the sarcophagi began to tremble. Lena took a step back. The aliens had lied. They had erased history. They had turned these creatures into myths, into monsters. But now, the truth was rising from the grave. The ground shook violently. The ruins themselves seemed to tremble as the first claw burst through the stone. Then another. And another. Eyes. Asterisk, asterisk, red, glowing, ancient. Asterisk, asterisk opened in the darkness. They were waking up. Above ground, the aliens panic. Inside the alien warship, chaos erupted. Sir, we have an energy surge beneath the ruins. Something's moving down there. The captain's hands clenched into fists. He had feared this moment. This wasn't just about the human anymore. It was about what she had set free. Increase power to the cannons, he ordered. Destroy everything before they emerge. But before the crew could react, a violent shockwave blasted upward from the ruins. The warship trembled as the jungle erupted in fire and energy. And then, something massive burst from the earth. The battle begins. Lena shielded her eyes as debris rained down. The ground beneath her feet cracked and split open as massive figures began emerging from their ancient tombs. These weren't mindless monsters. They were warriors. Raxar let out a powerful roar, and the newly awakened creatures responded. For the first time in thousands of years, the lost army of the Raxari had returned. Lena could barely breathe. She had come to this planet as an explorer, a scientist. But now she was standing at the center of an ancient war. Above her, the alien warship adjusted its position. They were going to fire. If they succeeded, it wouldn't just be her and Raxar that died. It would be the last survivors of an erased species. She had seconds to act. And in that moment, she made a choice. Lena fights back. Her gaze darted across the chamber, searching for something, anything, that could stop the alien attack. And then she saw it. At the far end of the chamber, beneath layers of dust, stood a control panel, a piece of technology far more advanced than anything she had ever seen. She didn't know what it did. She didn't know if it even worked. But she had no other options. She ran. The alien captain's voice echoed from above. Fire. The ship's cannons powered up. The countdown restarted. 5, 4. Lena reached the console, slamming her hands onto the surface. Symbols lit up beneath her fingertips. A surge of energy raced through the ruins. 3. The ancient warriors turned their glowing eyes toward her. Raxar let out a final, earth-shaking roar. 2. Lena's hands found the activation key. She took a deep breath, and she pressed it. 1. The sky burns. The warship's cannons fired. A blinding beam of destruction raced toward the jungle below. But before it could hit, the ruins exploded with energy. A massive force field erupted from the ground, blocking the alien attack. The blast ricocheted back toward the sky, slamming into the warship's side. The massive ship lurched, alarms blaring. Inside, the captain stumbled back, stunned. Impossible, he whispered. But it wasn't impossible, because the ruins weren't just a tomb. They were a fortress, and Lena had just activated it. The war has just begun. The ground beneath her hummed with power. The ancient technology pulsed to life as if it had only been waiting for someone to awaken it. The newly risen Raxari warriors stood at her side, their glowing eyes filled with something ancient, something powerful. Raxar turned to her, its massive body still scared, but its spirit burning brighter than ever. Lena took a deep breath. She had never been a fighter. She had never wanted a war. But the aliens had started this, and she was going to end it. She placed a hand on Raxar's side, feeling the warmth beneath its scales. "We fight," she whispered. Above them, the alien warship struggled to regain control, but it was too late. Because now, Lena was no longer alone. She had a monster. She had an army. And she had the truth. The galaxy was about to learn just how dangerous one human could be. War between humans, aliens, and the monster. The sky burns. The alien warship trembled, its once pristine metal hull now scared from the unexpected energy surge. Sparks rained down inside the control room as alarms blared, warning of failing systems. The captain braced himself against the control panel, his sharp eyes locked onto the ruins below. "Damage report," he barked. A nervous officer struggled to respond, his fingers moving rapidly across the controls. Direct impact to the starboard engines. Shields at 40%. Weapons systems partially disabled. The captain clenched his jaw. "I want full power restored. Now." "Sir." Another officer hesitated, glancing nervously at the holographic screen displaying the jungle ruins. The captain followed his gaze, and what he saw sent a rare chill down his spine. The jungle was no longer just a battlefield. It was a war zone, and at the center of it all stood one human and an army of monsters. The battlefield awakens. Lena took a deep breath, the air thick with the scent of damp earth, ancient dust, and the rising energy of the awakening fortress. Around her, the newly awakened Raxari warriors moved with eerie precision, their glowing red eyes locked onto the enemy above. They had once ruled this world. They had once fought for their survival. Now, after thousands of years, they would fight again. Beside her, Raxar let out a deep guttural growl. Lena could feel it, the unspoken connection between them. They had both been alone, both been hunted, but not anymore. Now, they had a common enemy, and they were going to make sure the aliens knew it. "They're coming," she murmured. Raxar didn't respond with words. Instead, it roared, a massive earth-shaking sound that sent shockwaves rippling through the jungle. The Raxari warriors responded instantly, their bodies tensing, their claws digging into the dirt. They were ready. Lena turned her gaze upward, where the alien warship hovered like a predator in the sky, her fists clenched. "Let's give them something to be afraid of." The alien invasion begins. High above, the alien captain's fury boiled over. He had underestimated the human girl. He had underestimated the beast, but he would not make that mistake again. "Deploy ground units," he ordered. "No survivors." The warship's underbelly split open, revealing sleek dropships lined up in perfect rows. Within seconds, the air was filled with the thunderous roar of engines as the dropships descended like black daggers, piercing through the jungle canopy. Inside each dropship, heavily armored alien soldiers gripped their weapons, their visors scanning for targets. They had crushed civilizations before. They had wiped out entire species. One human girl and her pets would be no different. The first dropships hit the ground. And the war began. The first strike. Lena barely had time to react before the jungle erupted in gunfire. Blue energy blasts tore through the trees, sending debris flying. Alien soldiers poured out of their dropships, their movements precise, methodical, merciless. She ducked behind a massive stone pillar as a blast nearly took her head off. "They're serious this time," she muttered. Raxar snarled beside her, its muscles tensing. Lena glanced at the Raxari warriors behind her. They had no weapons, only their claws, their teeth, and centuries of buried rage. She looked back at the approaching soldiers. The aliens had their technology. The Raxari had their strength. Lena had to be the bridge between them. Taking the deep breath, she stepped out from cover and shouted a single command. "Attack!" The Raxari responded instantly. They charged. The wrath of the forgotten warriors. The jungle exploded in violence. The first wave of Raksari warriors slammed into the alien ranks with the force of an avalanche. Claws met metal. Fangs crushed armor. The aliens, expecting a primitive, disorganized fight, found themselves overwhelmed. One soldier fired his blaster, only to have a massive Raksari tear the weapon from his hands and snap his neck in a single motion. Another screamed as a black-scaled beast tackled him, dragging him into the undergrowth. For the first time in the aliens' history, they were the ones being hunted. And it was glorious. Lena moved through the chaos, her heart pounding. She wasn't just watching anymore. She was fighting. A soldier lunged toward her. She dodged, swinging a heavy stone tablet from the ruins straight into his helmet. He collapsed, unconscious. Another aimed at her, before Raksar's massive tail whipped across the battlefield, sending the soldier flying into a tree. Lena looked up at the beast. Nice timing. Raksar snorted. We are not finished. She turned to see another wave of dropships descending. More soldiers. More weapons. More death. Lena exhaled. This wasn't just a battle. This was a war. The captain's last gamble. On the alien warship, the captain watched the battle unfold, his expression unreadable. This was not what he had planned. The human should have been eliminated by now. But instead, she had unleashed an army. His officers looked at him nervously. Sir, our ground forces are being wiped out. Should we retreat? The captain's hands curled into fists. Retreat? No. He would not lose. Not to a human. His eyes burned with cold fury as he gave his final order. Prepare the Omega bomb. The bridge fell silent. One officer hesitated. Sir, that will destroy the entire region. The jungle, the ruins, even our own men. Do it. There was no mercy in his voice. No hesitation. He had come here to erase a threat. If it meant burning this world to ash, so be it. The Omega bomb began to charge. Lena's final stand. On the battlefield, Lena's head snapped upward. Something was wrong. She didn't know how, but she could feel it. An unnatural energy building in the air. She turned to Raksar. Do you feel that? The beast's eyes narrowed. The sky hums with death. Lena's breath hitched. The aliens weren't just fighting anymore. They were about to end this. She gritted her teeth. They thought they could erase the past. They thought they could silence her. They were wrong. She looked at Raksar. We need to stop that bomb. The beast nodded. And together, they ran toward the warship, toward the heart of the enemy, toward their final stand. The final shock. Who is the real monster? The Omega bomb. Countdown to extinction. The alien warship hovered above the battlefield, its sleek metallic hull reflecting the fiery destruction below. Smoke and blood stained the jungle floor, the cries of the dying mixing with the growls of warriors locked in combat. The once proud canopy of green had been torn apart, replaced by craters and debris. But none of that mattered, because the countdown had begun. Inside the warship's central command, the Omega bomb's core pulsed with violent energy, its activation sequence irreversible. Final detonation in 300 seconds. A robotic voice echoed through the alien control room. The captain stood motionless, his gaze fixed on the burning jungle below. It's over, he murmured. Everything will be wiped clean. He turned to his officers, his voice ice cold. Prepare the ship for departure. Let them die with their secrets. Lena's race against time. The ground shook beneath Lena's feet as she sprinted toward the alien warship, dodging fallen trees and broken bodies. She knew she only had one chance. If that bomb detonated, it wouldn't just kill her. It wouldn't just kill the Raksari. It would erase everything. The ruins, the ancient knowledge, the last remnants of a lost civilization, the truth. And she wasn't about to let that happen. Raksar ran beside her, its muscles rippling with power, its red eyes locked onto the warship ahead. Behind them, the awakened Raksari army surged forward, their growls echoing like thunder. This was no longer a battle. This was a revolution. The galaxy had feared these creatures for centuries. Now, it was time for the galaxy to remember why. The storming of the warship. The alien warship's lower hatches slammed open, pouring out waves of armored soldiers. Their weapons lit up the battlefield with bursts of searing blue energy. Lena didn't slow down. Her mind was clear, focused. She wasn't a soldier. She wasn't a warrior. But she was a survivor. And now she was something even more dangerous. She was angry. She ducked behind a shattered stone column as energy blasts whizzed past her. "We need to get inside that ship," Raxor growled. "Then we take the path of fire." Lena grinned. "Sounds about right." And then they attacked. Raxor moved first, leaping into the alien ranks with terrifying speed. Claws met metal, teeth met flesh, and the battlefield became a slaughterhouse. Lena followed close behind, using the chaos to weave through the enemy ranks. She grabbed a fallen alien rifle, aimed at the nearest soldier, and fired. The blast hit center mass, sending the soldier crashing to the ground. She didn't hesitate. She didn't flinch. She had come too far to stop now. Breaking into the heart of the beast, the warship's main entrance loomed ahead, guarded by heavily armored elite soldiers. Lena cursed under her breath. "We don't have time for this." The Omega bomb's countdown continued. 180 seconds. She turned to Raxor. "Think you can clear the door for me?" The beast snorted. "I can clear the entire sky." And then it charged. The Raxari general slammed into the enemy lines like a meteor crashing into a planet. Soldiers were thrown into the air like ragdolls, their weapons useless against the force of a creature older than their entire empire. The door was unguarded. Lena ran. She reached the control panel and ripped off the alien interface. Wires sparked beneath her fingers as she worked fast, bypassing the security lock. The door hissed open, and inside, the Omega bomb awaited. The final confrontation. The alien captain stood in front of the bomb's core, his hands clasped behind his back. He didn't look surprised to see her. "You shouldn't have made it this far," he said. Lena stepped forward,